Now, the Garden Route is sometimes referred to as the Riviera of Africa for its beauty and attraction to the fabulously wealthy. But in truth, many of the Western Cape's poorest people are struggling to eke out a living in this region, especially during these tough economic times. Joining us now from our Cape Town studios is Alan Winde, who's the Provincial Minister for Finance, Economic Development and Tourism in the Western Cape. MEC, thank you very much for coming through. We know that the Western Cape contributes over 15% of South Africa's GDP, so it's a very, very important part of the country. What are you doing to boost the region's economic potential in the midterm?
Okay, well, today we launched our provincial government strategic objective 1, which is creating growth and jobs, and really on 4 pillars. The first, we need to create a brand that attracts investment, a brand that attracts skills, and so we've set a path to create that brand, to go out to the market, both local and international, to say, come and invest in the Western Cape. It's a great place to invest. Now, to also make that a great place, the second leg is we've got to create a government that people trust. So it's about making sure that we as government, and that's all spheres that we would be involved in, but that we as government can create opportunities and create a mechanism where people see us as corruption-free, see us as a government that's proactive, see us as a government that's able to facilitate and put in place platforms that business can come and operate on. Then the third platform is probably linked to the second one, and that is dealing with those areas of corruption, setting in place legislation that won't allow government officials to do business with government, and so also looking at where we can cut red tape, where business finding that areas that government is perhaps hindering their growth, how can we interact with those businesses, try and make it easier to do business. And then it comes really down to the real practical things, and I think the biggest announcement today was that we've decided to create a single economic development agency. It's not anything new, it's being done in many places around the world, but we at the moment in the Western Cape have got a number of smaller agencies. We've got a tourism marketing agency, we've got a promotion of investment and a promotion of trade agency, and we've got 16 special purpose vehicles which focus on various sectors within the economy. And we're saying some of those special purpose vehicles, as well as the 2 agencies being trade and investment, as well as tourism, put them into a single economic development agency. And then the real trick is to add to that. We own in the province between 80 and 100 billion rands worth of properties. We don't want to sell those properties, but we believe that some of them are tradable assets that we can put on to help stimulate, put onto the market, help stimulate the economy.
All right,
so we want to add some of those properties into our EDA and allow them to be tradable along with our marketing agencies as a mechanism to attract further investment into the region.
Right. Okay, let's talk about the tangibles here in terms of all these issues you've brought out. Let's just focus on them step by step. There is a sense that a high degree of foreign investment that comes into the province is focused on real estate, for instance, or focused on building tourism-related economies. And yet the province has so much more to offer in terms of agricultural economies, petrochemicals, but there is a sense that industrial development is lagging behind. What are you going to do to attract investment into core labor-intensive industries as is needed within the province?
Okay, we have a strategy called the Microeconomic Development Strategy, where we've got key focus areas like call centres, back office processing, the BPO sectors, and we are successful in attracting businesses. We've got a track record there. 10 years ago, Lufthansa started the call centre market really as the first big name, and we've had a number of investments, outside investments. We've just landed Amazon.com. They have set up a call center in Cape Town, so there's that market. There's also, we're busy doing a study at the moment. We've got 2 ports, one of the ports being Saldanha Bay, a very deep water port. We see huge growth potential up the west coast of Africa, specifically in oil and gas. We've got a study for an IDZ in that region. Focused on primarily the oil and gas industry, supplying that industry, but also coming back to Cape Town, acting as perhaps a head office hub for attracting the finance sector. 33% of our economy is made up of finance and services sectors. How can we broaden that? Manufacturing, what are the manufacturing areas that we can actually grow into? In tooling, there are various areas in manufacturing that we can perhaps. And then you mentioned agriculture, our wine industry, it's a big player. How do we grow that? And the establishment of that agency is to help with that. Right. But also we've got other catalytic projects, trying to build hubs around perhaps the health industry. A health hub is a project we're busy working on. Telecommunications is key. I mentioned the call centers. How do we get telecommunications to grow in the region? How do we get new fiber optics to spread across the country, across the province, so that we can start attracting other investments?
All right. There are concerns, though, that obviously post-recession, there have been some distressed sectors, not just in the Western Cape, but across South Africa. And what we've seen in the Western Cape in particular is a pullback in manufacturing and construction, two things that you've mentioned. And unless there's some kind of a recovery strategy, we're going to see unemployment in the province pushed up to 20% unless we can get manufacturing and construction to be invested in significantly in the near term. A recovery strategy for those two areas.
Okay, well, first of all, we believe from a policy point of view, it's not government that creates jobs, but what government must do is remove red tape, where red tape is in the way. If it's access to finance, we can facilitate to a certain extent, but we need to create the infrastructure platforms that business can then flourish upon. So we need to make sure that within our local governments, we've got access to roads, access to skilled labor, access to telecommunications, as I've said, the access to serviced sites, access to land, and then allowing business to do what they do best. When it comes to recovery plans, it's not about how much money we can put into specific industries, but it's making the space for those industries to actually grow and do what they do best.
All right, let's talk about tourism. The fact that Cape Town is regarded as the tourism mecca of South Africa, and indeed the province as a whole. The basic objective of the administration is to start putting into place mechanisms that are going to push tourism up to over 10% of GDP. You have a comparative advantage there, but it's time to innovate. What are the innovations within the tourism sector?
Absolutely. We do have that comparative advantage, but we can still grow upon that. We have got a great tourism offering, but we also feel that the platform that was given to us by the World Cup is something that you can't buy. The 32 billion viewing opportunities that took place around the globe during that World Cup, the 1.9 million soccer supporters that came to the city of Cape Town during that World Cup, the images of Cape Town as a great place to visit, that image that's been sent around the world, we need to now build on that and attract more and more people to come and visit this region. And not only the city of Cape Town, but obviously our offerings out of the city, our wine routes, our garden routes, our West Coast routes. And it's how we actually utilize that platform that's been given to us in sort of our core markets, being the UK and Germany. We saw some very negative publicity coming towards South Africa prior to the World Cup. That has absolutely changed. And it's how we market on top of that. It's making sure that when we go to the world travel market in London, that we've got that message behind us and we've got the new offerings. But at the same time, we've had tremendous growth in the region. In the last 3 years, we've had 17 new hotels built in the Western Cape. We've got more and more offering. That makes the price side of competition, supply and demand. I think we're going to be in a position where we can actually offer very, very good deals coming to this region and able to take up the volumes or the greater volumes that we're expecting to come as the season changes now going into spring.
All right, MEC, we've got a guest host, Kobula Granja, and he'd like to ask a question.
Hi, MEC. I suppose the one thing that comes to mind by just listening to you speak this evening is that you're really fighting a development battle against unemployment in the Western Cape, and you're fighting it on various fronts. And although that's great, and I suppose the question that comes to mind when I think about this is, do you have the people within government in order to really mobilize this? Because really speaking, we're talking about a huge area that you're trying to achieve. And then I suppose with that, can you maybe just give us an indication of what is the vision for the Western Cape? If you talk about literally job creation, what is the vision around that? And should it not be anchored to one specific objective that gets given time to get achieved? Say, for instance, 3 to 5 years before the next objective gets given a time to get achieved.
Well, you can't just really focus on one thing. Say, for example, tourism. You need to have a much broader approach. You also asked the question about, do we have the right people in government? And I think that goes to the microeconomic development strategy that we've got, that says it's not about what can government do alone. It's about partnerships between government and business. That's why we want to create an entity outside of government that business can come along and business can really do what business does best. It's business that creates jobs. It's business that gives people employment, not government. What we must do is to create that space, create that, and perhaps take away the blockages that are causing problems in that area. For example, skills. Let's just have a look at a big inhibiting factor to growth, and that's substance abuse in our province. We are very prone to alcohol and substance abuse, drugs. We basically lead that charge, and we need to change that. That has a huge effect on business. And we looked at and we've done a very comprehensive substance abuse strategy. What that has shown us is that we're trying to deal with a major problem with social workers. We need to change our skills base to really deal with this scourge. So now we interact as government with the universities and the FET colleges in our region and say, how can we create those skills, up that value chain? We need specialists, we need doctors, scientists that are working on that issue, on drug abuse, and how do we get that skill developed so that over a period of, say, 10 to 15 years, we can really make a dent in that problem, in that issue of substance abuse, which affects everything from education outcomes to outcomes within business. But that's one leg. Then there's tourism, then there's the manufacturing sector, then there's the oil and gas sector, there's the furniture sector, there's clothing. Clothing is a sector that has always been on the decline, a sunset industry. But there are components within that industry that are saying, if we can deliver quick turnaround times, if we can go into niche markets, we can actually compete with the world. Right. And that's what's happening. We're creating those niche markets. We're creating those niche products to go into those niche markets. So a declining clothing industry has itself, that business has turned itself around.
Right.
Government has played a role. We've tried to seed that and put some funding towards it. But at the end of the day, it's business that actually does it.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. The MEC for Finance, Economic Development and Tourism, Mr. Alan Winde, joining us from our studios in Cape.